welcome back to Math with Jen. In this video, we are going to represent the quotient of up to a 4-digit whole number divided by a 1-digit whole number using arrays, area models, or equations. First, we are going to start with an area model. The area model, remember when we used it in multiplication, we're going to put our factors on the outside. So it's going to be a factor times a factor. And when we multiply those dimensions or those factors, we're getting the area of the rectangle. So that's why it's called an area model. So for this one, we have the area, 3,216. That's the area of these rectangles. And we're starting knowing the area, and we're given one of the dimensions. So I'm going to put the 8 down here because it's a single digit. I have 3 rectangles, and I'm going to figure out what number I need to multiply to them to get the area, which is 3,216. We're going to start with the largest place value, which is 3,000. Can I divide 3,000? Thinking about that 3. Can I divide 3 by 8? Into equal parts? So we're going to use the next place value over to help us. So that's 3,200. I'll go ahead and write that out. We know 4 times 8 is 32. This 3,200 is probably something we can divide by 8 with. I'm going to write that in my first rectangle. Now I can divide that equally by 8 because of the 32, because we know our multiplication facts. So we've already looked at those first 2. Now let's look at the tens place. That's a 1. So that value is 10. Can I divide 8 into 10 equally? 10 divided by 8. Is there anything times 8 that we've learned that would give us 10? There isn't. Put a 0 there because there's nothing that we can multiply to 8 to get 10. The next place value, like we did for the 32, now we have 16. 16, we know 8 can divide into 16. So I'm going to go ahead and write down 16 because I know that value can be divided equally by 8. 8 times 4 is 32, but we need 3,200. So we're going to need this to be 400. So 8 times 400 is 3,200. Times 8 will give me 0. 0. 0 times 8 is 0. Think what times 8 can give me 16? It's 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Area model, if I add these numbers together, is 3,216. I'm going to add these numbers together. 402 times 8 is 3,216. And check my math to make sure that this is correct. I'm going to take that 402 that I'm saying is my answer. I'm going to multiply it by 8. So after you're done dividing, take whatever your quotient, this is called your quotient, take your quotient and multiply it by your divisor to see if you end up with what you were dividing up to begin with. 8 times 2 is 6, carry the 1. 8 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 8 times 4 is 32. And because it equals what we started out with, we know we did it right. This example, I wrote it a little differently. This is the other way you will see a division problem written. You'll have your dividend on the inside and your divisor on the outside. A lot of times when you do get the area model question, you won't have to come up with the whole thing yourself. You'll just need to know what every part is representing. The time you'll just be asked to complete the area model. And so if you understand what it means, you'll be able to complete it. So don't freak out about having to create it all by yourself. This whole area is going to be 9,684. I know one of my dimensions is a 3. Each of these is 3. That's one of the dimensions for each of these 4 rectangles. We're going to figure out now is the other dimension for each of these rectangles. And that's going to let us know how many times 3 can be divided into 9,684. We're going to start with the largest place value, 9,000. So thinking about your multiplication facts, just thinking about that 9, can 3 go into 9 evenly? Yes, because we know 3 times 3 is 9. I know that I can have that 9,000 here because 3 can go into the 9 evenly. The next place value is hundreds. We have a 6 in that place value, so that's 600. I'm going to think about that 6. Can 3 go into 6 evenly? Yes. So I'm going to be able to write down 600 here because I know since 3 can go into 6 evenly. I know that 3 can go into 600 evenly. Going to the next place value, can 3 go into 80? Because remember that that's the tens place and the 8 is representing 80. So 3 times something. Can 3 times something give me 80? You can say no, and you can go ahead and put a 0 here if you want. Or you can think, I know that 3 times 20 is 60. I can use 60 of that 80. So I could put 60 here. Now I just know I have 20 left over. I could put that 20 with that 4. So that would be 24. And so I would think, can 3 go into 24? Yes, it can. Or I could have just put a 0. But then I have to think about 3 going into 84. And so that might be a little bit more challenging because that's not a multiplication fact that you've learned. I'm going to go ahead and go this way because I'm using my multiplication facts. And because you know your multiplication facts, you probably should go this route. You know, 3 goes into 9 3 times. And because we need 9,000, this needs to be 3,000. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is not 600. So I know this 2 needs to be 200 because 3 times 200 is 600. 60, 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is not 60. So I know that this needs to be a 20 because 20 times 3 is 60. I know 3 times 8 is 24. So then now I can put these together. And that would give me 3,228. 3,684 divided by 3 should be 3,228. But because we're just learning about division, we're going to go ahead and check ourselves. I'm going to take my answer and I'm going to check it by multiplying what I was dividing by. And 3 times 8 is 24. Carry the 2. 3 times 2 is 6 plus the 2 is 8. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. Got the same answer as what we started with, so I know for sure that this is the correct answer. Most likely, you will not need to be able to completely create the area model by yourself, but it's good to know where everything's coming from. And there's different versions. You had put 0 and 84 here. As long as your factors on the top added up to 3,228, it doesn't really matter what kind of areas you decide to do in your area model, just as long as they add up to the correct thing when you are finished. In this example, we are going to do it using an array. So we already have it set up. We have our factor on the outside, and we're going to find out what the other missing factor is. That's really what division is. What are we multiplying to this factor to get this value? We want to take 7,698 and divide it into 6 equal parts. Start with the largest place value, which is 7,000. We're going to think to ourselves, how many times can the 6 go into the 7,000? 6 is smaller than 7, so we're going to think about our multiplication facts. We know that 6 times 1 is 6, and 6 times 2 is 12. So the most it can go in is that 1 time. So 6 times 1 is 6, so I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to subtract it. Okay, so really this is 6,000. 7 is in the thousands place, so that 1 times 6 is really 6,000. I subtract it. I'm going to get 1,000. I'm going to bring down the rest of it. I'm going to go to the next place value because 6 can't go into 1. So I'm going to go to the next one. That's 1,600. I'm not going to worry about the rest of it right now. 1,600. How many times does 6 go into 16? So we're going to think about our multiplication. We know that 2 times 6 is 12. We know 6 times 3 is 18. That's too much. We're going to have to use the 2. The 6 times 2 is 12. We're going to just put zeros for the other place values. Subtract. Oh, I have 498 left. 6 can't go into 4, so I'm going to go into 49. 6, thinking about your multiplication tables, I know that 6 times 7, 7 is 42, and 6 times 8 is 48. So 48, it looks good, so I'm going to go all the way to 48. I'm going to put an 8 here, because 8 times 6 is 48. And if I went to the 9, that would be 54, and that would be too much. 0 in for that other missing place value. Subtract. So I have 8, and then I have 1. So I have 18. 6 goes into 18 3 times. because I know 3 times 6 is 18. If I divided 7,698 into 6 equal parts, each of those parts would be 1,283. I'm going to stop and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to check myself. I'm going to take my answer, multiply it by what I was dividing by, and I'm going to make sure that I did this problem the correct way. I can say, yes, I did it correctly. Let's do another one together. We're going to take 2040 and divide it by 5. I'm going to start to do 5 into each of the place values. So 5 into 2. I can't do 5 into 2. I can't. There's nothing when I do my multiplication facts of 5. There's nothing times 5 that will give me 2. I include that 0. So now 20. So I'm going to think 5 times what gives me 20? You know, 5 times 4 gives me 20. I'm going to write down the 20. I'm going to put in zeros for these other numbers. I'm going to subtract. Bring everything down. Okay, so when I go to this next place value, this 4 is in the tens place. So I'm looking at the tens place only. How many times can 5 go into 4? 5 cannot go into 4. Okay, and that's the tens place. I need to make sure and I put a 0 up here. If you're going to have to move to the next number, then you need to put a 0. Over here, I couldn't do the 2, so technically I have a 0 up there. I couldn't divide 5 into 2, so I really had a 0 there. We just didn't write it because we just went to the next number. So down here, when I go to the 4, and there's nothing I can go into 4 evenly, I'm going to put the 0. That first 0 we usually don't write, but it is there. You need to have it when it's after another digit. 5 can't go into 4, so I'm going to use that next digit of 40. I know 5 times 8 is 40. Let's say you ended up with the 48. And you're going to check yourself because you're still learning. So 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 4 is 20 plus the 4 to 40. I can see that I made a mistake. You should end up with that value that you were dividing into. 6,265, and we're going to divide it into 7 equal parts. First, we're going to start with the 7. We're going to start with the largest place value. 7 times what can give me 6? There's nothing times 7 that's going to give me 6 because 7 times 1 is already 7. I'm going to go to the next place value. Think about 62. Now, you're thinking through my multiplication facts. 7 times what would give me a number close to 62? I know 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 8 is 56. 7 times 9 is 63. 63 is too much, so I'm going to go with the 8. 8 times 7 is 56. Zero in for the rest of the place values. I'm going to subtract, and then I do 12 minus 6 is 6. Okay, so I have 665 left. So now I'm going to take 7 into 6. I can't do that. 7 into 66. Think about my multiplication facts. We just said that 7 times 9 was 63. I put the 9. I'm going to put a 0 in for that other place value. I'm going to subtract. And then now we have 7 into 35. Right away, multiplication facts, you know that that's 5. 6,265 divided by 7 is 895. But we are going to check our answer. We're going to come over here. We're going to do 895. That was my answer. Multiply it by 7 to make sure I'm good. My product is the same as what I was dividing into. I know that I am correct. I thank you so much for joining me in this video. I hope that you learned something new, and I will see you next time. Bye. Track that. Okay, so it's very careful that you do place value. There's not a multiplication fact, right, that comes to mind. You would think about the number 30, and 8 doesn't go into 30 equally. And then this is just like a little rooftop to help you divide. I know that I am correct.